And let's just get started on our back. So if you're coming from the floor or from your mat, you can start on your back, slowly control, lower to the ground. Take a moment here with your feet planted firmly on the ground. Really let your shoulders rest here, back of your neck is elongated. Find a slight tuck of the chin, so feeling that spine get really long. And really noticing the parts of your body connecting with the ground. Just taking a moment here to really come into your body, to feel really grounded, really present. And we're doing the same in the chair. It's just a little bit different. So you're gonna have your feet planted firmly on the ground. You're gonna sit up nice and tall. So your back is actually not gonna be kind of leaning up against the back of your chair, but rather you'll be sitting up away from the chair a bit, and your arms can either be resting if you've got kind of like arm rests here on your chair, or you can just have your hands right in your lap. I kind of prefer it like this actually, so if you can, make that connection. Finding a nice tall spine, crown of the head reaching up, just taking a moment to breathe here and center yourself. Feel grounded, noticing the connection between the bottom of your feet and the floor. Beautiful. From here, let's start moving really gently. So we're gonna take our right knee in toward our chest. We only have one chest. And we're gonna just squeeze it in for a moment. And if you're in the chair, you can do the same thing, just kind of keeping that left foot planted down and then bringing your right knee in towards your chest. I like to keep my foot somewhat active and flexed, but it's really a preference thing, up to you. And then we're going to begin to make some circles. So keeping your hands on your shin or your knee or wherever feels comfortable, just to help you guide your knee into these circles. And you can start out small and make them bigger. And we're just lubricating the hip joint, warming things up. You're doing the same thing on the ground, making some nice circles with your knee. Good, and then option here, if you'd like, you can try to extend that left leg out long. If you do this, I ask that you just keep everything really active throughout the left thigh, keep the left foot flexed. It'll protect your low back, and if you feel any pain, any sharp sensations, then just come right back to the foot planted, the knee bent. And we're just gonna switch directions now of the circles that we've been making with our knee, using our hands to continue to guide your right knee in circles. Same thing goes for the chair. Just warming things up. And then seeing if you can connect your breath to each movement, keeping it going nice and steady, long inhales, long exhales. Beautiful. And then pause for a moment. Set both feet firmly on the ground, whether you're in the chair or on the mat, feet are planted. Take a moment, maybe bring your hand to your heart, hand to your belly. Good, and we're gonna switch sides. So now we bring the left knee to our hands. You could even clasp your hands and create a basket. Start to make some circles in one direction, maybe starting slow and small, and then maybe making them a bit bigger. And feel free to pause. If anything feels kind of tight in one spot, you can hang out there for a moment and just breathe into that sensation. And same option if you're on the ground, you can extend your right leg as you keep moving your left knee in these circles, if that feels good. Just making sure to keep the right thigh and the right foot flexed as you do that. And in the chair, we're just making the circles. Keeping that right foot planted down on the ground, breathing with each movement. Keeping it nice and steady, really deep. Couple more moments in that direction, and then start to switch if you haven't already, evening things out. In yoga, we try to keep things pretty even between left and right, and sometimes that's hard to do. It's okay if it's not perfect, but we do our best. So we always have like a favorite side or a tighter side, and we just acknowledge that, but also try to keep it relatively the same for each side. What we do on one side, we do on the other. Beautiful. All right. And then if you're in the chair, take a moment to plant both feet, hands on your thighs and just breathe for a moment. If you're on the ground, option to bring both knees to your chest and just make, let's say, 3 circles in one direction. This time maybe massaging the low back and then switching directions. And you can use your hands again to really guide you. If this kind of tweaks the low back, then you can just stop and bring your feet down to the ground. Beautiful. All right, so everybody plant your feet, whether in the chair or on the ground. Take a moment to breathe, acknowledge how it feels to be in your body right now. Notice any differences from when we started class. Very nice. All right, so from here, we are going to find figure 4. And so we're going to start small and we're going to build up to it, okay? So if you're on the ground, you're going to take your right ankle and cross it over the left thigh, keeping that right foot flexed, toes pointing towards your knee. And then we're just going to hang out here for a moment, feeling a bit of a stretch in the right hip. You could even do a little wiggling side to side or use your right hand to press away, kind of pressing on that right thigh. And if you're in the chair, it's going to be the same shape, we're just oriented differently. So you're going to bring your right ankle, cross it over the left thigh, flexing the foot, and then just hanging out here, sitting up nice and tall, breathing into the sensation. If it's intense, you can try like leaning back just a little bit, see if that helps. And if you want more sensation, this is where you can start to, if you're in the chair, fold forward. See if you can maintain a nice flat spine. So keeping everything nice and tall and flat as you kind of bow forward, leading with the chest and the chin as you do this. Breathing as it starts to kind of invite more sensation into that hip. Seeing if you can use the exhales to deepen the pose. Never going too far, so just finding that edge between effort and ease, and then hanging out there in that space. There should be no pain, just maybe a little bit of tightness here. If you're on the ground, so you're going to start to lift up that left foot. You're going to bring this whole situation closer to you. It's like the same thing we did in the chair, but you're now, instead of you're bringing your torso forward, you're bringing your legs toward yourself. And then you'll reach through and thread the needle, and you can clasp your hands behind the left knee and bringing the right elbow to the right thigh. You can start to press against that thigh. So same kind of movement that we were doing with the hand earlier to press it away, but we're using our elbow now instead to give ourselves an assist. Keeping your both feet flexed if you can. I think that's really the best way to protect the knees here. And just breathing, again, using the breath to deepen the pose, using the breath to open up the hips. Really getting in there. And again, if you'd like, you could do a little wiggling side to side, left to right. I know that I like this personally, but everyone's body is a little bit different. You might find that this doesn't quite do it for you. And maybe you'll like it. And if you find a spot that feels especially tight, take a moment there, breathe. Good, gently unclasping the hands, bringing your left foot down if you're on the mat, and then both feet down. Same thing with the chair, we're bringing our torso back up, and then we're gonna bring both feet to the ground, hands come to the lap, taking a moment to pause, reconnect, and really noticing the difference in each side. You might feel like one hip is a little more open, one hip is a little tight, and that's okay, it's very normal. We'll get to that other side in just a moment. Good, and now we're going to come into that other side, the left side. So if you're on the ground, again, you're going to keep both feet planted for a moment, and then you're going to take your left ankle, cross it over the right thigh, keeping your left foot flexed rather, keeping the right foot planted down, and then taking this left hand, maybe adding a little bit by pressing against the thigh, opening up the hip, maybe a bit of gentle rocking side to side, breathing into the sensation. And if you're in the chair, it's the same deal. So bringing that left ankle over the right thigh, seeing if you can keep that foot nice and active. Again, if it's really intense, you can kind of back off a little bit, lean back slightly, keeping your core engaged if you do this. And if you want more sensation, if you're not really feeling much here, Then you can start to slowly bow forward, lead with your chest, really broaden your collarbones here, chin comes forward toward the shin. Keeping a nice flat spine as you do this. Yep, seeing if you can kind of suck your navel in toward your spine. And even here in the chair, it can be nice to do a little wiggling. I know, especially with the hips when they're tight, this just kind of helps to open things up a little bit more. So you could play with kind of wiggling left, right. And then if you're on the ground, we're going to start to take it deeper if you feel ready. If you don't, you can stay exactly where you are. So the left ankle is crossed. We're going to start to lift things up. Now making sure both feet are flexed and active. Protects your knee. And then reach through, thread the needle, clasping your hands behind the right knee this time. Good, and then you can just gently pull the shin towards you, using the left elbow this time to create resistance against the left thigh. Again, option to wiggle, invite a little extra movement into this pose, and really honor your body and hang out if you're feeling any tightness. Like if you go, ooh, right there it is. Take a moment to breathe. Breathe there, really feel the sensation, and then see if you can use the breath to deepen the pose, deepen the stretch, open things up a little bit more. Very nice. Gently release the clasp, bringing the feet down. Same thing in the chair. Gently, slowly unwinding and then bringing your feet down to the ground. Nice and firm. Taking a moment here, maybe hand to heart, hand to belly, breathing, noticing, reconnecting to your body. Reconnecting to your breath if you lost it. So in yoga, we're always just bringing it back to physical sensation and to what's going on in our bodies, on our mats right now. Very nice. All right, so if you're on the ground, you're gonna widen your feet to about as wide as the mat, and you're gonna let your knees knock toward each other, okay? And you're gonna keep your feet glued in that position. They're not gonna move. You can leave your hands on your belly and your heart, or you can bring them out to your sides. And we're just gonna gently windshield wiper the legs side to side. So keeping the feet wide and letting the knees just kind of go left, right. So we're really opening up the hips even more, inviting some movement. Again, if something feels particularly good, you can hang out there for a moment. We're just breathing here, nice and easy. If you're in the chair, you're doing kind of the same thing, but it's going to be different movement. So the feet are just going to sidestep. Left, right, center. Left, center, right, center. You can move slower than this. I know I'm going pretty fast. It's really up to you and whatever pace feels good. And it's just really, we're trying to open things up a little bit more in the hips, but we're moving kind of a looser way now. Staying connected to the breath. Okay, and so you can kind of, if you're on the ground, come back to center. Let your knees knock together, letting the feet go, stay wide so they haven't moved. This time we're gonna hold a position. So you're gonna bring your knees over to the right. And you might notice this is pretty tight. You should feel this on the kind of outside and kind of top part of that left hip. And so if it's intense, feel free to back off a little bit. You could even use a pillow here and put it like between your legs and then the other one underneath your right leg, your right thigh, and rest there. If it feels okay, you can let them just kind of drop over to the right. Again, hands to heart and belly or by your sides, whichever feels best to you. And then feet are still at that wide position, right? And the knees are kind of over to the right. If you want to go deeper here and you're on the mat, you could scoot your right foot over the left thigh or kind of knee area to add a little bit of weight to that pose, okay? And now I'm really feeling it in the outer hip, kind of hip flexor area on this left hip, left thigh. And then see if you can soften the belly muscles here. Let your shoulders be super heavy on the mat. Just breathing into the sensation. Good, and if you're in the chair, so you can pause your side stepping for a moment. And we're gonna keep our feet planted. We're gonna sit up nice and tall. Inhale, reach both arms up. Good, on the exhale, turn and twist over to the right. And we're gonna bring our left hand to the outside of the right knee and your right hand to somewhere on the chair. And we're just gonna find a bit of a twist here. And we're really focusing less on wrenching our body into a twist and more on that connection between our left hand and the right thigh, as we should be feeling a bit of a stretch on the outside of the right hip as well. And if you're not really feeling it here, another option is you could cross your left leg over the right thigh and then bring your left hand back to the left, or the whatever hand this is on you. I'm kind of mirroring you, so now I'm confused, but in the cross, kind of pressing against your crossed legs and twisting over to the right. So this should like add a little bit to that outer hip stretch. Breathing, keeping belly muscles soft, using the inhales to lengthen and the exhales to find a bit more of a twist. But again, focusing on the hip sensation. Good, if you're in the chair, come back to center, feet plant, hands come to the thighs. If you're on the ground, you can just bring both knees, so wiggle that foot off the thigh if it's there, and then bring your knees back together, knocking them together, the feet go wide, arms can just stay wherever they were, either on the body or by your sides. And we're gonna switch sides. So now both knees are gonna fall over to the left. Again, if one side might feel a little different than the other, right? So maybe here you wanna add the pillows, so between the knees and then also underneath that bottom, that left knee for support. Or you can just let them be heavy if that feels okay. And now you should really be feeling it in that outer right hip, maybe the front part a little bit. I even feel it in the quad somewhat here. And then if you want more sensation, if this isn't really doing it for you, you don't feel much, then you can wiggle the left foot on top of the right thigh, adding weight to everything, deepening the sensation. Again, if there's any pinching, any sharp pains, I would really recommend that you back off, be kind to your body. And then just breathe, notice how it feels, notice the difference between this side and the other, and really allow the shoulders to be super heavy. You could even start to close the eyes or soften the gaze, loosen the jaw, soften any face muscles that are working hard right now. So identifying the muscles in your body that don't have to be doing anything right now, and then seeing if you can let those go. Now in the chair, we're gonna do the same thing we just did, but on the other side. Let's see if I can get my left and right straight here. So we're gonna feet planted, right? Sit up tall, inhale, reach up, lengthen all the way up. Good, and then exhale, turn and twist to the left. This time, right hand comes to the outer part of that left knee, and then the left hand comes to the chair for support. No wrenching, no yanking or pulling here, no sharp movements. We're really focusing more on the outer hip and kind of almost even like a T-band area of this left leg. And if you're not feeling much, again, you can cross the opposite leg over. So that right leg comes over the left thigh, and then keep pressing on the whole leg situation here, for lack of a better phrase. And then maybe you'll feel more of a stretch in the outer hip. Using the inhales to sit up a little taller. And the exhales to twist a bit more, keeping the head stacked over the shoulders and the shoulders stacked right over the hips. Everything is in line, breathing. And again, right here in the chair too, softening the muscles that don't need to be working so hard. So noticing if your eyes are feeling really intense, see if you can add some softness. Noticing if you're clenching your teeth, release that. Even the belly muscles can be softened a little bit here. You don't need to hold on so much. Beautiful. Then gently coming back to center, nice and slow. If your legs are crossed, you can release that. Plant your feet, hands to lap. And then on the mat, we'll also wiggle the foot off the thigh if it was there, bringing the knees back to center, taking a moment to pause, as we always do. Beautiful. Now we're going to bring our feet back to center, so about hip distance. Knees are just pointing straight up toward the ceiling now. This is where your props are going to come in. So you're going to grab your pillows or your towels. If you're in a chair, and you can make your way down to the ground if that's possible, and you can really add lots of support, you might give this a try, because I don't quite have the equivalent of this pose for the chair. Otherwise, you know, you can find a nice Shavasana pose to kind of rest and absorb the benefits of the practice in your chair. So the feet are planted, hands in the lap. If you can make it to the ground, we're going to find supine butterfly pose. So we're going to bring the knees out wide, and we're going to really prop up the knees, because this is an intense pose on the kind of inner hip area, groin area. And so rest your knees on something. You should not really feel much here. If for some reason you've got super open hips, like I know I don't today, then you could, you know, reduce the amount of cushion, or even release, like get rid of your props and just have your knees like so. But I would really recommend, even if you've got flexible hips, having a nice supportive prop underneath each one, just because we're going to hang out here for a bit, for as long as you can. Just hang out and really focus on releasing all the muscles in your body. So hands come to heart and belly, or by your sides, palms up. Spine is nice and long, slight tuck of the chin to elongate the neck. Start to soften the gaze or close the eyes. And then just do a scan of your body from head to toe, noticing the muscles that are working and seeing if you can release them one by one with each exhale, letting go, really sinking into the mat, allowing yourself to be held by the mat, by your pillows or props. Letting the fingers start to curl in toward the palms. Releasing tongue from the roof of the mouth. Eyes sinking back in their sockets. Belly is relaxed. Breathing is relaxed, effortless. Fully surrender here. And all together, let's take a deep inhale through the nose. Open your mouth, sigh it out. You are more than welcome to just rest here for as long as you can or you want to. It's really up to you and your day. If you're ready to make your way out of this position, you're going to use your hands, okay? So bring your hands to the outsides of your knees, and we're going to gently close the legs like a book, so using your hands for an assist. Good, and then from there, we're going to remove a pillow from one side of you and just roll over to either side that does not have the pillow. Taking a moment to pause for just a brief moment here, reconnecting, honoring your body in this practice. And then using your top arm just to press yourself up to a comfortable seat. If you're in the chair, you can keep your feet planted firmly on the ground. Hands come to the lap, sitting up nice and tall. Good. On your next inhale, reach both arms all the way up. Find a nice big stretch. Fill up with air. Exhale, hands to heart center, pressing the palms together. Thumbs meet at the space between your brows. Thank you for sharing your practice. Namaste.